Have you ever wondered what ignited the Indian Rebellion of 1857, a major uprising against British rule? A seemingly minor incident was the catalyst that set off a chain of events, leading to a major revolt. It all began with the introduction of the new Enfield rifle. This new weapon was perceived to be tainted with pig and cow lard, substances deeply offensive to both Muslim and Hindu soldiers. Imagine the scene. Soldiers in the barracks huddled together, whispering about the new rifle cartridges. Rumors spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of discontent and outrage among the sepoys. This was not just a matter of religious offense, it was seen as a blatant disregard for their faith and customs, a sign of disrespect that was simply unacceptable. The introduction of the Enfield rifle wasn't an isolated incident. It was a spark that ignited the simmering discontent among the Indian soldiers. This discontent had been brewing for quite some time due to various factors such as British dominance, harsh land taxes, and the general skepticism about British rule. This seemingly small incident was the spark that ignited a flame, leading to a full-blown rebellion against the British rule. Did you know that the rebellion spread like wildfire, starting from Meerut and reaching as far as Delhi, Agra, Kanpur, and Lucknow? This uprising wasn't just a small spark, it was a blaze that swept across North India, igniting a spirit of rebellion that British rule hadn't seen before. Let's start with Meerut, the city where the first spark of rebellion ignited. It was here that the sepoys first mutinied, a reaction against the British East India Company's rule, and particularly against the new Enfield rifles believed to be tainted with cow and pig lard, an affront to both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. This mutiny wasn't confined to Meerut for long though. Soon, the flames of rebellion reached Delhi, the grand old city that had been under British control. The mutineers seized Delhi, and in a move that signaled their defiance of British rule, they proclaimed Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India. Here was an emperor who had been reduced to a mere figurehead by the British, now being hailed as the leader of this great rebellion. From Delhi, the rebellion spread to other key cities. Agra, Kanpur, and Lucknow each felt the heat of the rebellion. In each city, the story was the same. An uprising against British dominance, a fight for freedom and dignity. In Kanpur, Nana Sahib led the struggle for independence, while in Lucknow, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah spearheaded the resistance. Even in Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai, with the help of Tantia Tope, fought valiantly against the British. Each of these leaders played a crucial role in the spread of the rebellion, inspiring others to join the fight and resist British rule. But it wasn't just these cities that were affected. The rebellion rippled outwards, reaching other regions such as Bihar and central India. Everywhere it spread, it ignited a spirit of resistance and a desire for independence. The rebellion, initially a military mutiny, quickly became a widespread civilian uprising, shaking the very foundations of British rule in India. This wasn't just a military revolt, it was a people's rebellion, a collective cry for freedom that echoed across the length and breadth of India. The British, who had so far enjoyed unchallenged power, were now facing a formidable challenge, the likes of which they hadn't anticipated. It was a rebellion that would leave an indelible mark on the history of India, and indeed the world. Could you imagine the fierce battles and the heavy price that the rebels paid for their defiance? As the rebellion spread, the British forces launched military operations to suppress it, resulting in fierce conflicts and bloodshed. The fight was not without its heroes though. Figures like Nana Sahib, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, and Rani Lakshmi Bai stood tall, leading the struggle in their respective regions. In the city of Kanpur, Nana Sahib, the adopted son of the last Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, led the fight for freedom. He initially showed kindness to captured British soldiers. But upon hearing about the inhumane treatment of Indians by the British, his stance changed dramatically, leading to the unfortunate demise of those who were in his custody. Nawab Wajid Ali Shah fought valiantly in Lucknow. Despite being exiled by the British, he returned and led a fierce battle against them. The city was a stronghold of resistance, but eventually, after a hard-fought struggle, it fell into British hands. In Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai, the Queen Regent, refused to surrender her kingdom to British rule. Alongside Tantia Tope, she fought tooth and nail against the British forces. Despite their bravery and persistence, they too were eventually defeated. Each of these leaders, along with countless others, fought valiantly, but the odds were against them. The rebellion was eventually crushed by the superior firepower and strategic planning of the British forces. The aftermath was brutal. Severe reprisals were taken against the mutineers, with many being executed or exiled. The rebellion may have ended in 1859 with British victory, but its impact was far-reaching and long-lasting. It was a turning point, a moment of reckoning for both the British Empire and the Indian subcontinent. It marked the end of the East India Company's rule and the beginning of direct control by the British Crown. But most importantly, it lit a spark that would eventually ignite the fire of independence in the hearts of millions. Have you ever thought about the profound impact the Indian Rebellion of 1857 had on the history of India and the British Empire? This pivotal event led to a cascade of changes and reforms that deeply influenced the trajectory of both nations. Following the rebellion, the British East India Company, a corporate entity that had been ruling vast swaths of India since the 17th century, was dissolved. This marked the end of a unique experiment in corporate governance and signified a shift in the way India was administered. The British government took direct control of the Indian subcontinent, a move that brought about significant changes in the country's administration. The new regime made efforts to better understand Indian society and culture, in an attempt to prevent further uprisings. They also sought to integrate Indian elites into the governance system, creating a class of loyal intermediaries. Alongside administrative changes, the rebellion spurred modifications in the military. The British began to diversify their recruitment to prevent the dominance of any one caste or region. The composition of the Bengal army, which had been primarily made up of higher caste Hindus, was altered to include a greater proportion of Sikhs and Gurkhas, groups perceived as more loyal to the British Crown. The rebellion also had significant implications on the financial system. The British government took over the East India Company's debts and possessions, which included a vast network of railways, canals, and telegraphs. This transition marked the beginning of extensive British investment in India's infrastructure, a legacy that continues to shape the country today. In the aftermath of the rebellion, Queen Victoria issued a proclamation promising rights to Indians. This marked the beginning of an era of reform and legislation aimed at protecting the rights of Indians, though it would be many years before these promises were fully realized. Despite its failure, the rebellion of 1857 marked a significant shift in Indian and British history, paving the way for the rise of a strong national movement and changing the way India was governed forever.